Today we're solving equations with the distributive property. In some equations, you're going to see parentheses. If you see parentheses with a number attached to it on the outside by multiplication, then you can use the distributive property to help you solve the equation. So for example, I know that this is a little abstract with the variables, but if you pretend they're numbers, the same thing happens, the same process happens. Okay, so if I have a parentheses b plus c, I can take that a and distribute it inside both of the terms, inside the parentheses. So a times b gives me a times b. If there's a plus here, you want to write the plus over here. If it's minus, you want to write a minus. And then you have a times c, and there's your a times c over here. If they were numbers, we could go ahead and do the multiplication and then combine the two terms together with addition. So that's how that works. Okay, once you distribute, you always want to check to see if you can combine like terms. So the second step is combining like terms. After you combine like terms, you should end up at an equation that's a one-step or two-step equation. Okay, and that's how that works. So we go from multi-steps to the one or two step equations like we worked on yesterday. Let's try an example. Alright, I do not see parentheses here, so if you don't see parentheses, then you can skip step number one and move on to combining like terms. So if I have a 9x minus a 7x, that gives me a positive 2x. If I have a 1 minus a 5, that gives me a negative 4. And I haven't done anything with the equal to sign, and negative 20, you can't combine anything over there on that side. So that stays the same for now. So we're moving on to solve for the variable. This is going to be a two-step equation like we saw yesterday. So remember, you add and subtract first, and then you worry about the multiplication or division that's attached to the variable. So we're trying to isolate the variable. So I see that minus 4 on the left-hand side. I want to add 4 to both sides to get rid of that minus 4. So that leaves me with 2x is equal to negative 16. In order to get rid of that multiplication of 2, I'm going to divide by 2, and x is equal to negative 8. It is always good practice to check your answers after you solve them. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of doing it here, okay, and then you can do that on your own. Okay, so what you can do is wherever you see an x, you can put a parentheses. And I'm going to plug in a negative 8 there. Okay, at this point you can type it in just like that, exactly like that on the left-hand side, plug it into the calculator, and you'll see that negative 20 does in fact equal negative 20, and you have a correct equation. Okay, let's move on. Alright, number 2, I see parentheses there, so now I'm going to distribute the negative 7. So it's negative 7 times 3a is a negative 21a. Negative 7 times negative 1 is a positive 7, and that is equal to 91. Okay, there's nothing to combine, no like terms to combine on the left-hand side or the right-hand side as of right now. So when you combine like terms, you combine the sides of the equations separately, okay? Alright, so now we move on to, this is a two-step equation, so I have a plus 7, I'm going to subtract the 7 on both sides. So we have negative 21a is equal to 84. Okay, now I've got to get rid of that negative 21 that's bound to that a by multiplication, so I'm going to divide it. So you see that that makes a 1 there. Negative 21 divided by negative 21 is 1a. or you can just write the A. And 84 divided by negative 21 is a negative 4, and I'm done. I mean, I could also double check that, but I will leave that up to you. Okay, number 3, I'm going to take that 4m and just rewrite it because I'm not ready to work with it yet. I have to do the parentheses first. Alright, so I've got a negative 5 times this whole thing in parentheses, so I want to distribute. So negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15m. Negative 5 times a positive 10 is a negative 50 equals 126. Alright, now I've got some like terms to combine. So I'm going to combine the 4m and the negative 15m, and I'm going to get negative 11m minus 50 is equal to 126. I'm down to my two-step equation. I'm going to add 50. So negative 11m is equal to 176. My last step would be to divide out the negative 11, and that gets rid of it over here. And 176 divided by negative 11 is negative 16. And there you have it. Alright, number 4 looks a little complicated. Let's walk through that together. So I'm going to distribute the negative 3 first. So I have negative 3 times k. Negative 3 times the negative 8 is a positive 24, so be careful with that. And then I have this minus. This is the same as a minus 1, okay? Or it's multiplying through by a negative. Alright, so I have negative 1 times k is negative k. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. And I haven't done anything with the 23 yet. Alright, I'm ready to combine like terms. So negative 3k minus 1 more k is negative 4k. And then 24 minus 5 is a positive 19. Okay, I'm going to subtract out that 19 next. So I get negative 4k is equal to 4. Let's divide out a negative 4. So now I have k all isolated on the left, and 4 divided by negative 4 is a negative 1 on the right, and I'm done. I'm going to leave 5, 6, and 7 for tutorials because I feel like I need some that are similar to the ones that we've already done, just in case you need some extra practice later. I do want to do the last two with you because number 8 has a fraction, and the last one is a challenge. It's just all words. So let's work through the fraction first. Alright, it doesn't work any differently than if you're distributing a whole number. So 1/2 times 10x. So half of 10 is 5. So we have 5x. Half of negative 2. So half of 2 is 1. So it's negative 1. Plus 3x equals negative 25. Alright, next step after you distribute is to combine like terms. So I have 5x plus 3x is 8x. Still have a minus 1 equals negative 25. So now there's no fractions, and I'm down to my two-step equation. I'm going to add 1. So 8x is equal to negative 24. Last step is to divide through by 8, and x is equal to negative 3. Alright, let's try this last one together. 5 times the difference. This means subtraction of twice a number in 3. Alright, so the difference of twice a number in 3, so twice the number and 3, and we want the difference. And we want 5 times that whole thing. Alright, and then, so there's a comma there, so that breaks up the next line, which says decreased, which means subtraction as well as difference, by the sum of the number and 8. So we want that same number, but we want it to be the sum of that number and 8. So n plus 8 equals 13. So that is what the equation looks like. Okay, so from words to now an equation. And let's distribute the 5. So we have 5 times 2n is 10n. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Remember, this is like a negative 1. So negative 1 times n is negative n. Negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. Next step is to combine like terms. So 10n minus 1n is a 9n. Negative 15 minus 8 more is a negative 23. Equals 13. Okay, I'm going to add 23. So 9n is equal to 36. And my last step then is going to be to divide through by 9. And n equals 4. And then you're done. You've solved for the variable and you are done. Okay, so I think we've done plenty of examples. We will get to the warm-up and you will have some individual work to do on your own.